guys, welcome to the Off Market Mindset. My name is Michael Riordan. I'm the host of the podcast, and we're here with Joe Doherty. He's in the greater Boston area. He actually likes to invest in what is it, New England area?
Yeah, Northern New England. So for buy and hold, we'll do states that are neighboring Massachusetts. So you got Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire.
Nice. Okay. And then, he is focused on commercial real estate. So anything over 4 units, that's your man to talk to in the area. And you are not just a investor, but you're also a lender as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, so more so of a capital finder. Luckily for us, we've had some opportunities where projects went well, and the word got out, and we've helped other people with larger projects sort of tap into investors that were looking for bigger opportunities, and then some of the actually
Mhm.
family office type investors as well through some of the commercial lenders that we have partners with down here in Boston. Again, just trying to make people who are looking for capital aware that there's multiple sources, and at the same time, when a good developer has something that's able to provide good cash on cash return, always willing to make those introductions for people's behalf.
Awesome, man. Yeah, which I'm actually excited to talk about some of that, especially from your notes and stuff like that that you had sent me before we connected. You've got some really cool things going on. So, but before we get into things, just go ahead and I'm sure there's a lot more behind your introduction that I completely missed, right? So, for people to get a better picture of who you are and what you do and stuff, do you want to kind of add to anything or?
Yeah, I mean, I think I will just say I'm very humble to the point where I've been in some big rooms, and the best and the most talented are always learning. So I want to be sort of seen that way as well. I like to ask good questions. I've definitely found that when you go alone, you don't go as far.
Mhm.
So, my sort of background comes from being an athlete. I was an ice hockey player throughout my life, and played a little bit in college. But really, it just all comes down to a team. So, hockey players, they get knocked down a lot and they get back up. So, that's no better preparation for life than getting knocked down and getting back up all the time. The only caveat too that I'll say is, I would say, sales is one of the best things that ever happened to me. After school, not really having a ton of direction, I started selling cell phones door to door. I actually went and knocked on a few doors, and that sort of
Mhm.
opened up, no pun intended, another door to get into corporate sales. I worked at a
You planned that out, didn't you?
Yeah, no, so I knocked on the door, and it was actually somebody that I knew from my playing days, and we had coffee later on, and he worked in insurance, so that led to a career in financial services for a little while when I was in my 20s, and then that was right around where tech was getting big, and Oracle was actually opening up multiple offices in the Burlington area, which is a suburb of Massachusetts. So I
Mhm.
rode that wave for 9 years in enterprise sale, was a manager, was a national manager, had the chance to, work with companies like HBO and Bain Capital and Fanatics. So again, a lot of good experience that I didn't know at the time would prepare me for today, but I can tell you when you try to think about solutions and value, always good things happen.
Yeah, no, 100%. You could look at a problem in one way or another. It's, oh, I have a problem and I can't do this, or I have a problem, how do I figure it out and fix it, you know?
Right.
So,
And
but
then,
I
and,
mean,
and if people take the time to, so again, we all want to make money, right? But if you
mhm.
just take the time to do what, Pay says, try to find the bunnies, right? Or if you try to do things to sort of be in a service sort of kind of position, it always sounds corny, but it's really just about just taking time and using the sort of the information that's available, whether it's through the people on the other side of the desk, if you will, or vice versa.
Oh yeah. I mean, the thing about sales, right? I mean, you have door-to-door sales or like phone sales, things like that is completely different because it's not just somebody going in the store to buy a new shirt or groceries or something. when we're talking to people in a position like that, it's there's always something more behind it, right?
Absolutely.
You don't have to ask somebody, "Oh, why are you buying this shirt?" But if somebody comes to you and, as an example, we're in real estate and they're like, "Oh, I need help. I'm in foreclosure." It takes a human being to say, "Okay, well, what's going on? Tell me more about it so I can help you out." So 100%. If you look at everything as a transaction in sales, you're never going to get far.
Right.
You have to look at it like, how can I help this person? And even more important, even though there's always going to be something in it for us, we can't look at it that way. Because, like, as an example, say someone's going through a foreclosure, but we can't purchase their property. There's still things that we can do and responsibilities that we have to better our communities.
Yes.
So they may not be able to be a good fit for us as far as like a property per se, but maybe we can connect them with counselors or, food services or maybe help them with moving, things of that
Yes.
nature as well. So,
Absolutely, man. And that's what's really drawn me to this the whole time is, you know, it doesn't end when a transaction sort of isn't a fit, right?
mhm.
There's always that opportunity to sort of make the most out of it and have that be a mutually beneficial sort of outcome. And there's nothing wrong with walking away feeling like you helped somebody.
Yeah. I mean, not every sale involves financials, right? Like at the end of the day, you could look at a sale in two ways, right? So, oh, I, got this property and, I sold them on the idea to let me purchase their property from them and I helped them out. Or you can also, sell yourself, right? Like
Definitely.
I helped this person. That's still a commission in my eyes. And I know
Absolutely.
from what you're saying, it sounds like you as well. So, now you had mentioned something earlier, obviously, like you said with your sales career, like that was like one of the biggest things for you. Like if you look back to where you were in the past and I guess where you are right now, how did you mean by like sales? Like you're glad you got into that. That was like one of the biggest things for you. Like I forget what you said exactly, but
Yeah, it's just one of the best things that ever happened to me, right? So, again, I think um I went to a Catholic high school and, it was really just about, sports. And,
Mhm.
when you kind of grow out of that and it's time to sort of hit the real world, there's a little bit of, trying to figure things out. And, not unlike anybody else, had some sort of good opportunities come my way and some not so good. But when it came to me sort of saying, why sales was so important, I'll give you a couple of reasons. Number one, it allowed me to sort of find something that I was good at and sort of tap into multiple sort of mental components. So I like solving problems and I like sort of winning. So
Mhm.
again, it just spoke to that. But the other thing I'll tell you is I had to get a securities license in order to sell mutual funds. As in one of my roles, I worked in the financial district in Boston, and that studying requirement put me in the library during my partying days. So, all the guys would be at the apartment having a great weekend. I'd have to be waking up or sort of going to make sure I could make it to the library to study. I actually met my wife in the library because she was studying for the same test. She had, she had the same exact book. Normally I wouldn't have been so bold to hit somebody up in the library, and this was before, the apps in dating. But long story short, she had the
Yeah,
same book, struck up a conversation. It was just right place at the right time.
that's really cool.
Yeah,
That was the ultimate sale right there. There you go.
that's it. You know, like I said, I'm very, very humble and blessed because I've been fortunate enough to be able to travel, been fortunate enough to sort of meet some very amazing people I still consider friends and in my network, people who I've raised capital with.
Yeah,
And gotten to take my family to Disney World after doing certain real estate transactions, and sales helped me build the home that we live in.
nice, man. Yeah, no, 100%. I can, relate to that. I've been in sales for a very long time as well. And I think, in the very beginning, everyone starts out, oh, I want to make more money,
Yeah,
right? But then as you're progressing and it's like, okay, well, I'm making money, but it's like you get to a point where it's kind of like stale. It's like, what
Yeah,
else is there? What else
right.
can I do? And when you listen to some of these sales gurus and they're teaching you to close hard, right? Like, um, there's always that aspect that's important, right? Because when it comes to people, you got to get them out of their own way sometimes,
Yeah,
right? But if you're always trying to close them, you're doing them a disservice because you're not allowing them to realize it for themselves,
right,
right? So I think one of the most important aspects in bringing that human touch into it is not just talking about yourself, your product, your service, and everything else, but like you said, figuring out like the deeper level, like what is it that they need? Can we even help them in the first place, right?
right,
And but also getting them to explore more about their situation for them. You shouldn't have to sell them,
right,
right? It's just by asking the right questions and being curious about them, like genuinely curious,
right.
you can actually get them to realize their own situation. So that way, when you present the solution, you're presenting them with something that they actually feel is going to help them.
Yeah,
And then it's not about closing them, but getting them out of their own way and helping them overcome themselves,
yeah,
right? Because at the end of the day, it's not overcoming objections, it's overcoming the person. So, I mean, I don't know your sales background, but like for me, I sold timeshare. And when I was looking at it from a money aspect, I eventually started feeling like bad, right?
yeah.
Like, oh, I'm selling these people something and, maybe they don't need it or blah, blah. And these things go through your mind. But then
Sure.
when I started approaching it better, I would tell people, I don't think this is going to benefit you.
Yeah,
Whereas when you're in that closer mentality, oh, it's going to benefit them regardless. Like you're
right.
going for the sale versus, selling to help. So,
Great.
but how do you feel like that has maybe affected the way that you do things now with your real estate business?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I think we've all been there, right? Like, there's that's the beauty of sort of life, right? We get to sort of have different experiences that lead us to better ones. And then, sort of coming through that journey, I know when I was young, I definitely, I had a hammer and everything around me was a nail, so I was just trying to hit everything. And, you know, th- happy to say that, I learned, a lot of lessons. And I feel like, the evolution of sort of really kind of understanding that having a diverse tool set, whether it's, like human to human, ability to sort of listen first with two ears, um, but the ability to sort of engineer the right outcome and always learning that a win-win is always going to be the prime example where two people walk away, maybe they lost a little bit, but they both feel good about the overall sort of decision. Uh,
Hmm.
and that's really kind of what I'll sort of like leave that at. I've been on the end of transactions where maybe it was one-sided and you don't feel good about it. So it's kind of echoing what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
Um, I've, been in this situation where, it was like, your boiler room sales sort of culture, you know what I mean? Hammering the phones, trying to beat the guy next to you for, club performance or getting sort of MVP of the quarter. All that stuff works, it's crazy, what I would do just for some extra pizza, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, I would say, again, back to being able to say that I've really been fortunate enough to be around talented people.
Yeah.
And one thing that I'll always say is people who are usually the best, usually have very sort of low egos, and they also are humble where they're always trying to get better. I definitely feel like I started off with that, you know, need to try to prove myself, and I would maybe overlook learning opportunities or overlook the ability to sort of maybe network or sort of connect with somebody that I
Hmm.
maybe thought was the opposite. And because they were the opposite, I didn't value that opportunity. But now it's so much different. Like my kids help me all the time. They explain, different terminologies, or I just see how, being a coach to, a 7-year-old or an 11-year-old, how that actually is applicable when you talk to adults, right? People don't want to feel outsmarted. They don't want to feel that they're not following, you know what I mean? And they're in a position where they have to, potentially pretend, right? So for
Mhm.
me, in the real estate space for the last few years where I've been, I say one thing all the time in every conversation. I know nothing. I don't know. So I'm not going to go in with a preconceived notion. I'm going to back it up. Our first flip, great neighborhood, totally, well known for its school system. So instantly thought that that house was going to be sold to a family looking to get in before the school year. So we were
Mhm. Is
pressuring
that
our,
the one you divided?
no, no, this was our
Oh,
first one. So, just, same town that we live in. The property, like I said, was a block from one of the better elementary schools. There's a handful of them. This one's, sort of just known for its campus and teachers, and they've got special programs out of that particular facility.
hmm.
So it turned up two people with mobility issues, wheelchairs, people with bad sort of hips and things like that. There was a bidding war, three people that I never would have ever expected to be the ones who drove the price of it.
Yeah.
Again, mobility issues. The reason why it was such an attractive property is because it had no stairs.
Mm.
That
Okay.
was that. It wasn't us. It wasn't how we priced it. We put in a brand new kitchen. We thought that was going to be the draw to the family, but because
Yeah.
it had no stairs, it was a home run hit. And again, goes back to me saying I know nothing. And that sort of just takes
Mhm.
me into every sort of time I'm having a conversation. I want to know what the drivers are, if there's distress, and we try to figure out how that can be utilized to sort of get that win-win engineered. Again, that's the sort of the mindset going into everything.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I just want to address something. So everyone just watched me trip in a chair. That was crazy. I literally just tripped in my own chair. But dude, exactly what you're saying is kind of crazy because I have a deal that's it's closing next month on the 18th, and it was a novation, and I
Awesome.
listed it as a realtor. So I'm a realtor and I'm an investor.
Yes.
And the people that listed it, they listed it with the seller and they were looking to get like a specific price. And for people that don't know what an ovation is, it's basically you go under contract for one price and then you just work on selling the property for the owners. So um, they had it listed zero action. I don't think I maybe had like three showings on it in almost 3 months that it was listed.
Yeah.
And the only action that we had was from open houses. So, long story short, we had an offer, they backed out. Everyone that came to the open houses, they didn't like the property because of the layout, right? So, just going back to what you were saying, the layout is what made your property sell, right?
Yeah.
The reason this didn't sell was the layout was awkward. Now, the homeowner, the contract expired for the novation and they decided they wanted to delist their property. So I reached out to the investor that hired me and I told him, listen, would it be okay if I reached out to the homeowner and tried to see if I can get this listing back? So he's like, yeah, sure. Well, the funny thing happens that a family came through the property right after it was delisted and they loved the property so much because it was a split property
Yeah.
and they had an older child that lived with them still. And
Yes.
what people didn't like about the property made it super attractive to them because it had split AC units. One side had the master,
Yeah.
a really nice little area underneath, and it was a beautiful property.
Yeah.
So it was the exact thing that made that property end up selling. And the cool
I,
thing is,
I
selling it
just
off
want to
market.
throw, yeah, well, I just want to make sure you give yourself some flowers, man. Like, the action steps that you took to, get the list go through the effort, earn the credibility, and then earn the right to go and ask for the listing again. That's, that's the grit, that's the sort of the action taking
Yeah.
mentality that, you earn that through and through, and that's an awesome sort of ending. So congrats on that.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And honestly, it's like what you said, it's just the rooms that you're in. If I wasn't in the rooms that I'm in right now, surrounded pe by the people that I'm surrounded by, number one, I wouldn't have got the listing. It was a sub two student. He posted in a group that he was looking for someone to list the property in the area, and I just happened to be a realtor in the area.
That's great.
So just being in that room got me that listing.
Yeah.
Um, and then with the listing, I mean, I worked hard. I'm not one of the realtors that just throws it on the MLS. I spent almost $1,000 on photos, marketing, email blasts, weekly showings. I mean, you name it. I did everything that I could to sell this property. Um, but the unique thing about it too is going back to what we were talking about being human, because when I reached out to him, he was not happy, right? And I kind of look at this as selling a timeshare to someone that hates their timeshare.
Yeah.
And you have to be a special, you know, person to be able to do that. And not talking myself up, but a lot of times I would educate people so well on their own timeshares and teach them how to use their timeshare. I wouldn't even worry about selling them the timeshare that I was selling,
Yeah.
and I would go over their program. I knew my competitors so well that I showed them they had a great timeshare. They had a great program.
Yeah.
And then what I would do after that, and they understood their timeshare was good, they just didn't understand how to use it. I would go back and I would say, okay, well, that's that timeshare. If you like your timeshare and the benefits that you have from it, this is what ours offers. And this is why I feel like you guys should add a little bit more as a complement to what you have, because you have a great timeshare, you just don't have enough, right? So then I used to sell people like that all the time. And I truly believe in it. I own a timeshare myself. So for people that are talking, maybe listening to this and they're like, oh, you're a scammer and you're a piece of crap, whatever. Um, no, I own one. So, what can you say about that?
Yeah.
But I did the same thing with him. So when I called him, I was like, hey, Daniel, I just wanted to give you a call. This is the agent that listed the property. Um, you know, I'm not going to say their names, but so and so told me you wanted to delist. I just wanted to find out, what was going on, because I know you were trying to sell because of like health issues and stuff like that. And, so I just asked him questions, figured things out. He wanted a specific price. There was a price he wouldn't go below, right? So it just so turned out that that same day that I got a offer on the property from that family, it took some negotiating with the seller as well as negotiating with the buyers, but I actually got the buyers to come up from 680 to 700. So, and that's 700K, or no, 660. They had an original offer at 660. I got them all the way up to 700,000, because I knew his number that he wanted. And in
Yeah.
order for him to pay the agent and pay me and get his net that he wanted, we couldn't go below that seven mark. So,
Yeah.
100%. And I didn't bring that up to, pat myself on the back, even though I will. Thank you.
Yeah.
But it
Like,
really goes to show exactly what you just said, how important all of that is.
right. And, it's a financial exercise, right? And everybody has sort of their own drivers behind it. And the fact you took the time, the effort, and now you have that sort of lowest watermark that you can't go below. Now you're armed, and you didn't have that information prior on the first go round.
Hmm.
So, the way things can turn, and I always feel that it's a collaborative effort. I work with a lot of agents, so I can touch on it, but the property in Stoneham that was the subdivision, I went in to a showing and
Yeah.
I let her know that I was an investor and I would go and be there unrepresented throughout the process. So luckily that sort of opened up the sort of the dialogue and I just sat.
It's not a
So
real Zoom meeting unless you have problems. So,
yeah, but the the point I was going to make is, the agent that I was talking to in the process, um, I think in the beginning they had been sort of getting such low offers.
Hmm.
Nobody took the time to understand that there was a lot going on behind the scenes. Like I said, health issues, death, probate, all these sort of other items. And then because I was able to really sort of switch roles and be, I would say, a solution to the problem, then there was four heirs in the family,
Oh
and
wow.
I wasn't trying to get them to be lowered on the price. And then, it's so it came up in the conversation that the backyard had a special permit that they were going for a variance. So 10,000 square feet is the typical lot size. This one was 5,000. Uh, the attorney that helped them, there was a family friend that helped them, very high profile attorney in the town.
Yeah.
He was able to get that special variance approved in the extension. The biggest piece of that is, you know, I was working with the seller's attorney, the seller's agent, and our team all at once trying to help get something across the line that several other, developers weren't able to do. And we
Hmm.
got a lot, a buildable lot come out of it. And, just a story about, I would say some adversity, right? We had a builder come in with a great offer for us, but the amount of time it took because of that land court. So in Massachusetts, certain types of properties, if you have to go through land court because it's the land is registered,
Oh
you have
yeah.
to sort of sign up for longer processing times. Um, Anyways, the developer that we had expressed, stress, and we didn't want to keep him handcuffed with this deposit. We gave it back, and and we took a risk that we might have to maybe take less, but we were very fortunate enough, and I just think that karma is a real thing. You do right by people. So when
Hmm.
we broke the original developer out of the deal, he actually offered to sell us the drawings. We didn't even know that he had drawings all ready to go for the property.
Oh
So
wow.
we had drawings and we were able to get sort of a fast track permit. So when we sold the plans with the land, we were able to actually get the same price that we got originally. And again, just a win-win-win all around, just good people trying to, do right by the sellers. And, again, it wasn't easy, but it paid off.
Yeah. Is that the one that you put in your notes, the one where you divided it?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's for people listening, obviously, I mean, we're talking about, oh, be human, and oh, when you bring the human aspect in, like, if you can explain it a little better, like what do you feel like actually made them want to do the deal with you? Like when you say like you asked them, uh you found out about like the heirs and you found out about the property and everything, like what kind of questions were you asking in order to get a response like that?
Yeah. The conversation sort of openers are really, there's nothing special to them. I literally use the same ones all the time, such as, how come you're not selling it, at the price you're asking for? How come you've had to lower the price? And then that opens up the dialogue. That you
Hmm.
get a lot of info from, why they decided to and what sort of caused them. And, there's a lot of scenarios where, they were given an offer and, whoever it was, sometimes it's a wholesaler, they'll not be able to lock it up and they have to back out. And then, those folks are sort of kind of holding the property, for longer than they expected. And now they're in a situation where it's a little bit of desperation.
Yeah.
And it's never an option for us to come in and pounce on that. Like if there's like a blood in the water situation, that doesn't really help us because this is our community. Our kids go to school here. They play sports here. I coach. So do my partners. It has to be a situation where we're 100% transparent, and
Yeah.
the reputation is, intact, because we don't want to be walking down the street and somebody says, hey,
Mhm.
there they go, and they took advantage of our grandmother, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Instead of being the shark, you want to be the rescue boat.
that's right, and then just
Yeah.
back to that human part of it. It's really something like you mentioned in the beginning. I go through options. Like I don't lead with a creative opportunity because this started off as seller financing from a
Mhm.
transaction standpoint. But when we were in the conversation, I asked them, why couldn't they get a loan? Why couldn't they borrow the money from somebody? Why, there was one of the family members that had a faster time horizon because they wanted to relocate. How come we can't find a way to just get her supported, and all these things just started coming out. And one of the brothers was actually in real estate as well. So
Oh, wow.
he came on the phone at one point with us, and I think we sort of kind of got his support, and that helped
Mhm.
because then after that, the attorney came on, and he was known as sort of like the tough guy in the town, where you don't want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
mess with. So to get him on our side and then sort of be supportive of what we were pitching, which was seller finance, because again, there was two heirs that needed money faster than the others. So we were going to cut the asking price in half, which is just under 1 million, and we were going to pay off two of the heirs, and then we also wanted the lot to come in unencumbered, which was sort of a move by my attorney. They didn't sort of love that in the beginning, but again, we earned the right to sort of let them know that we had a process, that they were going to be protected, and it's part of the offer that we feel most comfortable with, and we got there. Seller financing ended up falling through because in Massachusetts, uh, one of the heirs was on Mass Health, which is a subsidized sort of healthcare, and
Uh-huh.
you can't be seen as having a rental stream, or sorry, an income stream while you're on that. So
Oh, they'll
for,
lose their benefits. Yeah.
yeah, so fortunately or unfortunately, they had to lower the price by another $100,000. So we came up with the cash and figured a way to do that, but our lenders and our money partners were willing to be participants because again, we did a double close at closing for the lot. We already had a buyer lined up, so people's equity exposure was dramatically improved when they knew we had a buyer for 350K for the vacant lot.
Hmm. That's cool, man. And then one thing I'd like to talk about is your other deals as well. So what really intrigues me is the fact that you're not this super investor, you've been doing it forever and stuff like that. Like you're just coming into the game and you've already gotten a 100 unit deal. You have the split that you made over $300,000 on. And then the other deal was you converted a was an office building into how many rooms was it? Like 40 rooms, something like that?
No, no. So it was a 8,500 square foot office building, and we converted that into 7 rental units with
7 units. Okay.
potential for more because the basement's not done over yet.
Hmm.
But that was an interesting project. It was right in the beginning of our career. We made some mistakes. We leveraged investors, and again, luckily the building is performing. It's a 10% return on the cash on cash. But it's a situation where we are navigating. We ended up signing a 10-year covenant with the state of Vermont for the funds for the renovation. Uh, Coupled that with an actual seller financing for the acquisition. We got 4% at a 40-year term. So, some good things for sure, but construction went way over. We managed it from afar, doing a lot of trips back and forth.
Hmm.
So, I'll say that for a bunch of rookie mistakes that we made, where we still have hopes that this is going to be a home run in the end. It might be a home run for our grandkids, but you know, but it does have some bright spots. Again, we think that we could pay down the covenant and really sort of increase the performance of the building, and
Hmm.
opportunities will open up from there. High interest rate environments are tough for refinancing buildings that, you use a lot of capital to renovate it. And taking a building in the middle of, downtown, Rutland, Vermont, near the ski resorts and sort of weatherizing it, bringing it up to code. There's things like, things we didn't know, like you had to um, have the ADA Disability Act, accounted for, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, sprinklers, like there, when we bought the building, there was a path where we didn't have to use them because there was, plenty of egress, but, 7 units is just, it's not a small amount of space and it's not a small amount of people. So you really got to do the right thing from an insurance standpoint.
Yeah,
And
of course.
we didn't have that experience. We thought one of our investors was sort of kind of someone that would be a little bit more hands-on, that they could have, helped, sort of kind of guide us because, he had more of that background. But hey, we're all in this together.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that he's in it the way he is, if he's partnered with you, he should be worried about his own investment. But um, that's pretty cool. Now, how did you actually like come about getting into this deal? Like, especially being like new to the game and being a rookie, as you had mentioned. Um, that's pretty big investment to get into just right off the bat. I mean, why not start with a single family like everybody else?
Yeah, so this was our third building, our third project. So we had the very first home with the mobility sort of bidding war, right? With the people with no who were fighting over the home because there was no stairs. We did a
Yeah.
condo. And then we were just having challenges because it was a low rate environment in 2020. And people were just coming in with cash offers, outbidding us in our local market. So if anybody's familiar with, the Boston market, it's very unique. The school systems, the economy, and then the lack of supply, it just leads to, a lot of high equity in a lot of homes, and getting people to sort of take haircuts and everything like that. It's just not as easy. And it's also not our business model. So with that being said, we decided to expand our network, and we were definitely flying high with confidence, right? Hey, we just had two successes. We're going to buy things on creative to sort of shelter our growing pains along the way.
Yeah.
And then when we found out that there was grant programs in the area and it was near a ski resort, it just seemed a little bit more, if I'm being honest, I think we were selling ourselves pretty good
Yeah.
on why we should do it. Um, Shout out to some people in the community who helped with, giving some advice, um, you know, pointing out that it's, not all is lost because again, it is still performing. We took,
Who was it that helped you? When you say shout out, let's shout them out.
well, yeah, so the guys from Vetted, Kyle, Colin, and James on their team, they've always been a resource, and Justin Tumanowski also did a great job of sort of giving some, background and some insight.
Oh,
But
nice. Yeah,
yeah,
Justin's a great guy.
yeah, yeah, I'm lucky to have him in the New England community, and his team, everybody, including CJ, they're always a phone call away. And again, I haven't done any deals with them yet, but I'm always thinking of them, and I know it's just one of those things, be a go-giver, and I definitely believe in that. But for this particular deal in Vermont, again, it's something that we took literally a dilapidated building, and now it's producing $120,000 a year. So,
Nice.
we're proud of it because we survived. And
Is
when
that
we
gross
do,
or net?
that's gross. Yeah.
Gross.
But
Still nice.
yeah, and then, when we pay down the covenant, we can increase those rents, by another 20K. So, I'm sorry, yeah, the annual income by another 20K. So we'll go from 120 to 140 pretty quick. That's again, something to be proud of.
I that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But
amazing, man.
to answer your question, like how, and sort of like, again, coming from technology sales, right? You don't want to sell the feature, right? You want to sell the solution to the problem.
Mhm.
And when I think of sort of why somebody would want to do a deal, I always think of, what's the sort of the net financial sort of components to a deal like that. And when you come in and you're talking about, trying to help save people time, understand what type of distress is involved, it could be family, it could be disaster relief, it could, I see homes with like water or fire damage as gold mines, right? And again, one of those things. It's one of the four Ds, right?
Yeah.
And when you start to look at and gravitate toward those problems where everybody else kind of runs away and they're looking for turnkey, it helps sort of reduce competition and then kind of puts the discussion on a sort of playing field of, how do we solve a problem together, right? And
Hmm.
then just the other thing I'll say that's which was a big factor and you'll see a theme here is we work with the agent. So we actually paid the commission for both the agents on the Vermont deal.
Yeah.
So by getting the 4% seller finance and getting the sort of the grants that come into play, we knew that in order to sort of help sort of sell it to the sellers, we needed to get them to sort of see, that it was a win-win. And the realtors didn't have a lot of experience, but what they did do was they dug their heels in and they ended up sort of doing a good job at helping us get over the finish line.
Yeah. No, that's great, man. I mean, kind of the same thing with the deal I just told you about. The agent, it was actually a broker, and he's never done a deal like this. And he even told me, he was like, I'll be honest, I've never done anything like this. It's, super strange, but I mean, I'm always open to, learning something new and taking away from it, which is huge when it comes to real estate. I mean, there's so many realtors, and I say this all the time, and, people that watch my videos have heard me,
Yeah.
but so many
Let
realtors
me
are
ask
just
you a question,
closed-minded. Yeah, go
how,
ahead.
what role does the concept and the topic of protection sort of like, how do you use that as instead of like a negative in a conversation? How do you try to use it to sort of help facilitate?
Uh, how do you mean? Could you ask that a different way?
Yeah, sure. So, when I hear people say I've never done this before, and when you hear attorneys or realtors say like, it doesn't
Mhm.
feel or sound right, I've learned that it's really just we're not doing a enough job sort of outlining the layers of protection that are available. But every
Yeah.
time you sort of put protection at the forefront and you sort of wear it as like a badge of honor, I think that just increases the probability. So I'm sure you've come across that as well. And I always like to hear how people sort of kind of position, what we try to do to sort of make people feel protected.
Yeah, of course. Well, one of the big things is just looking at the situation, right? So in this situation, even though he's never done a deal like this before, it's still kind of like your typical on-market deal. So for him, his big thing was he's never gone from having a property that was on market to making an offer on the property and all of a sudden it's off market. Right. So the whole time I made sure that I kept him in the loop and was honest, right? That's the most important thing is honesty because um, I told him, listen, it's a strange situation. I'm actually not the home seller's client. So I was the client of an investor that they put a contract on the property and were selling it for the homeowner. So right there, that could be a red flag for anybody. But by telling him what the situation was and why it went off market and why he's still accepting an offer, it gave him the understanding. And he was educated enough to say, okay, well, I can see that, right? And
Yeah,
then I went even further with it. So what I did is I told him, listen, I was going to use for the closing agent somebody in our area just because, it's what I'm comfortable with. But you're from the area, so who do you use?
I like that.
And
Yep.
he was like, oh, well, I use such and such title company. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
great. Would you actually refer them to me? I would like to use them just
Yeah,
because they're local, just to make this a lot easier.
love
So
that.
that brought in so much credibility because one of the biggest things people may think is, oh, well, this could be a scam, right? And then it's like, okay, even further, they want to use their own closing. So now we're using his title company, right? He's a broker. So I've got him doing all the paperwork. I just got the signatures and stuff for him. And
Sure.
then on top of that, we're all going to meet in person. So I reassured him. I said, listen, the sellers are going to be at the closing in person. That's why I would like it to be local. And then I'll be there as well as you and your buyers. So another thing that I made sure to do since he was a broker, that could have been a super unethical transaction if I was the client of the seller, right? So one of the other things that I made sure to do was make it clear I was never the seller's client.
Yeah.
Because if I was a seller's client, he canceled the listing. It was already, in my brokerage. So they're due that commission.
Right.
But what I made sure to do was tell him, and just to be sure, man, and I know you're a broker, I just want to make sure you're comfortable with this transaction before moving forward. Remember how I told you I was, hired by the investor? I just want you to know I was never a client of the homeowner. The homeowner had a contract with the investor, and I listed the property under the investment company. So I just want to make sure that you understand that everything is legal and it's also ethical. So that way there's no violations to NAR because National Association of Realtors is like the mafia.
Yeah.
If
Well,
they're not getting
impressive
their
though.
cut.
You're a professional, and people, they don't realize how much can be saved by just doing a little bit upfront, a little work like that upfront. That's awesome. Congrats,
Oh
man.
yeah. Yeah, and so I guess just, being open, being honest, and really just knowing what I'm talking about. Like you said, just being professional about it is, the most important factor. But, speaking about professional, I mean, I saw that you also, closed on a 100-unit deal. Um, that's amazing, right? So how did that transpire?
Yeah, so it's 100 unit doors, and it's we closed on the capital raising relationship. So the
Mhm.
Vermont project sort of helped open up a lot of doors. I actually, really believe in raising capital all the time. So letting people know what we're working on, what we're doing and what we're trying to find. There's no better sort of time like the present and before you actually need capital. One of the people that I actually played college hockey with ended up becoming a wealth manager out of New York. And I just let them know that there's some good things happening in and around the New England areas, especially in the vacation destinations. And again, some great resorts within an hour to 2 hours from Boston. So people
Mhm.
like to escape, right? And I 6 months went by, never heard from him. He calls me, he says, I don't have any money for you, but I have two clients that are looking for money.
Yeah.
And they're based out of New York and they do projects in New York. They've got two projects in Connecticut, one in New Haven and one in Norwalk. So, I just kicked into action, and I said to him right out of the gate, "It's not something that I focus on, but I'm gonna make every effort." And I
No,
just
the
developed
solution to the problem, dude.
I developed a list of people that I thought could help, and I just asked them. And the fact was, we were willing to and able to figure out what was best for my friends' clients. We developed a relationship from doing so, and someone in our network actually connected us to JLL's family office. And then that conversation's opened up doors with some other big, well-known, CBRE, Cushman Wakefield, and
Hmm.
they're looking for a very particular type of opportunity, right? It's got to be high on the cash on cash return. The developer has to have the right experience and right track record. And when you find those together and you sort of offer to those offices, that they have no problem with putting in front of the right people that could fund those projects. And I learned a lot about the capital stack, right? Debt versus equity, joint ventures at that level. So again, I'm very, very happy to say that we've got, written agreements on two projects in Connecticut, and we're
Hmm.
looking to sort of double down in 2025 and 2026 to sort of, make that be a big component of what we do.
Awesome, dude. Well, I mean, obviously, you're a resourceful person, and not only are you resourceful, but that brought you into a lot of really great rooms. And you know, one of the most important things that's happened for me within my investment career is just the, relationships that I was able to build. And it sounds like you're the, type of person that anybody should want to build a relationship with. So, definitely looking forward to continuing ours. But if people want to reach out to you and, be able to network with you, where would they be able to do that?
Yeah, no, I'm always on Instagram, checking messages and Facebook as well. If it's within the community, I'm trying to learn and be as comfortable with Discord as well now. But happy to also give you my email address and my cell phone number if anybody ever wants to sort of reach out to me that way. But
Mhm.
yeah, I go back to what we've been talking about. I feel like I'm learning, and I'm humble enough to say that there's other people out there that I can learn from. And one of the things that I don't have going into any conversations is ego. I do think that when you have some of these opportunities to connect within the community and ask for help with other people, you want to make it count, right? You also want to be prepared to sort of offer value or be useful, right? And at the same time, I want to let everybody know that if I ask a dumb question or if there's something that I find out that I should know going into it, I won't make the mistake in not being prepared with that in the future. But again, it's one of those things where you don't learn unless you don't take action.
No, 100%, man. Well, if people want to reach out to you, do you have like an Instagram handle or like Facebook handle, or do you
Yes.
want to give your number or email here?
Yeah, sure. So upside underscore RE for real estate underscore dev, which is short for development. So upside underscore RE underscore dev. And then my email address is Joe D, so first name and last initial, at upside hyphen RE hyphen development.com. Kind of long, but that was the only the web domain that was available.
No worries, man. Well, I am going to be posting all your socials and the description for the podcast episode. I'll also be posting mine as well. So if you guys want to reach out to either me or Joe, remember Joe is a developer. He's in commercial real estate as well as capital raising. And for me, I am buying properties in the Central Florida area and all over the state of Florida. But I also can help to move properties anywhere around the country. So if you need somebody to help you dispo, I've got a lot of international, national buyers as well. So, but yeah, dude, I appreciate you. I think this was a great episode.
It was
And
long overdue, and I'm glad that we're in each other's sort of circles now. So by all means, I look forward to continuing to work with you.
oh yeah, well, this is one of my ways to network. And is there anything that you want to leave anybody with?
No, I'll just say that, again, it really it's a team sport, and at the end of the day, the one thing that we're doing is we're providing some type of a service to someone. I just feel like we can save a lot of people a lot of time, whether it's investors who are really good at what they do, helping them find opportunities that are vetted and are good fit is something that's a service that's useful to people with capital, and at the same time too, it's a situation where um, you know we are really providing a great sort of service, right? Developers are very good at what they do. Sometimes raising capital is not a strength at the moment for all developers. So don't be surprised if you're in the gated community, if you're in any type of other sort of capital raising network, some of your best investors might be people that are coming from that sort of maybe sort of lower tier that are looking to try to break into that next level, and working with them early enough in their careers or that journey can really open up a lot of doors in the future.
For sure. Well, awesome, man. Um, appreciate you. Like I said, we're gonna put all your information in the description so that way anybody can reach out. But you know, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, and do everything that you do with social media. If you feel like there's things that you want us to talk about in future episodes, leave comments below for that. And if there's any room for improvement as well, I'm sure me or Joe, we're perfect with taking criticism. We're very open and humble. So leave that as well and let us know how we can do better for you in the future. All right, guys,
Great.
take care.